This is one of those movies that I just feel everyone has to see, especially if you're a cinephile, if you take your movies seriously, if you like having educated conversations about the film industry, especially the MPAA and what it means today. This is a great starting point, despite it being, almost 10 years old now, and the rules have kind of changed since then. For instance, Jack Valenti's no longer in charge. However, it's still a really important, not just document, but exploration of what Hollywood really is and how it truly works and how they represent the things they want to be seen. So, with that in mind, welcome to Debt Cinema. I'm Brian Gillis.
And I'm Steven Maltmanex.
Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching the latest releases. However, it can sadly put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we miss, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic.
Or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
Hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the other's opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
For 35 years, a secret group has controlled the way you see movies.
There were clergy in the room.
These are moral censors.
They've forced great filmmakers to change their art.
I was so devastated.
I got the call and they said NC-17. That's when my blood turned to ice water.
Because the studio won't release your movie.
No advertising budget. You can't run TV spots.
No one's ever found out who they are.
Who is controlling this thing and how are they controlling it?
No one knows. That's the whole point.
Until now.
We're actually hiring a private investigator to try to find out who these people are on the board.
You have the DVD in front of you right now.
Yeah, I do. And I bought it for $1.
How funny is it that this movie was put out by Red Envelope Entertainment?
AKA Netflix.
Fittingly so, because guess what? That's the only way you could see it. That is exactly how I watched this. I had to get the Red Envelope in front of me. I could not stream it, not even on Netflix.
Well, not me. I got my actual real DVD. I was in New York. I was in Bed-Stuy, to be more specific, aka where, Do the Right Thing takes place. And then they had some DVDs, but this is the only one I bought. I had to buy it. It was $1. It's a literal had to buy. I'd seen it before then. This is made by IFC. It's Red Letter Entertainment. It's also Genius Entertainment, whoever they are. And so I saw it one night on IFC. It had to be 2006, right when it came out. So I remember a lot of buzz about it, all the trades, especially at that time in my life. I was
probably like the only way you could have watched it too, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think this got a theatrical release. Maybe like
No, it
two
did.
theaters in LA. That's
yeah,
probably
it got
but
a very minor one because it was such a big festival winner and everyone loved it. I was just flipping channels then, but yeah, I was on IFC as I was wont to do back then, and I didn't know what it was, and it kind of started out with those sex scenes. I was like, yeah, I'll watch this. Why not? Like, it was basically softcore porn. And then also I remember pressing info and it said like Kevin Smith and John Waters, and it listed some of the directors that are involved for interviews, and there's a lot of them here. But yeah, I loved it instantly, and I still do. This is only the second time I've watched it, but I said in the intro, I think this is just necessary information for a lot of people. It kind of digs into how not just our rating board works in America, but like the modern version of censorship works.
Well, we're going to have a great conversation because I'm going to tell you, this is put out by Red Envelope Entertainment. Like I said, that's the only way you can get it. There is no digital platform. And you know what? That's probably within good reason, because I think this thing is obsolete for the most part. Not to say that there's a lot of valid stuff in there, but yeah, I think if I saw this in 2006, I would have found it much more eye-opening. But a lot of the anecdotes that come here, I look at it and I go, well, a lot of things have changed now. Like, the thing that I think we can definitely agree on is just the MPA itself, and that, there is no diversity there in how it's run. It's kind of messed up that there's just this one group that gets to decide these things. I'd like to say that things at least have improved or that things are evolving. I do not know, but I mean, yeah, I'm really going to be on two minds of this thing, because I think I have issues with this thing. I feel like it's very one-sided, and its goal is just to attack Jack Valenti and the MPAA. But
it's a gay filmmaker, his exploration of figuring out the 2005 class of the Raiders.
Yeah,
Like
but
he has a vendetta here.
I know, and that's my issue, because I really do wish, like, yes, there are some clear examples here where the ratings are stupid, of how the indies are just picked on, and for studio films they're just kind of given a list of things to go down and change. I mean, yeah, a lot of this is bullshit, but I really wish there was a more parental perspective on ratings. Like, for example, that's just one of the many things I wish that we got, of how...
Well, you get that fun scene towards the end during the appeals process when
Which
Joan Graves asks him, and he's like, "Are you a father? Would you show this to your kids?"
No,
and Kirby's
but
like, "Yeah, I am,"
an
and I think
extreme
that's
version
at
of
the
it.
discretion of the children, that they can decide that on their own. That's the parents' decision, not these random people who have kids that are in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah,
like,
I
why
have to
should
say,
you?
though, like, I mean, yeah, that thing. Well, her specifically, her comments were ridiculous, but that's not like a universal indicator of every single parent. For example, I would say, like, this has been brought up recently, but a movie like Once, which has an R rating just for language,
Whereas Jaws is PG-13. Yeah,
it's actually PG. Yeah, but honestly, I don't think I can argue with that either. I mean, it's not like I would give Once a PG-13. Like, yes, I know language is used, but I feel like giving that movie an R rating just gives it more credibility, because it's an adult film about an adult relationship. It may not
It's a
be
stupid thing. The
sexually
ratings...
explicit. Like, ratings are kind of weird, but at the same time, it's like, well, I don't think it's bad that movie is rated R.
But Once, if it was put on TV, could definitely be not only just on basic cable, but network television.
But they would censor it. They would cut out all the language.
No,
and
I'm not
stuff.
saying airing the movie. I'm saying, like, if they made a TV show, like, of the same content, there's nothing there that needs to be secluded to only not parental, but for adult viewership. It's a beautiful story. It's not the only example you can do here. Like, there needs to be better examples in this film. It is dated. It is about a specific thing.
The MPA just kind of feels outdated itself, because John Waters brought up this point, which was a great point probably in 2006, that
it's still
if
a great
your movie
point,
is NC-17, then Walmart's not going to carry it, Blockbuster's not going to carry it. You go on Netflix right now, and what are you going to find? You're going to find Nymphomaniac and Blue is the Warmest Color, and your kid could probably just wander on into those by accident and press play.
Not to be do semantics, but Blue is the Warmest Color is taken off. It's coming back mid next month.
Yeah, but I mean, the point is it was there, and kids
there.
easily have this access to everything that they want. There's no parental lock on Netflix.
Well, there kind of is. Netflix, there's a kids mode where parents get to pick out, like, what the kids can watch, and I think there actually is kind of V-chip functionality, because you have the specific
to whatever they want, though. Like,
not really, though. That's what I'm saying. Like,
it's not
you
like
have the profiles.
Yeah, but it's not like those are password protected for each individual
No,
profile.
they kind of are.
You can still click on them.
The profile. I'm sure if you set it up the way that. First off, you've
I've
never
looked.
been
It might
in
have
the
changed now, but no.
Like, you're not in the situation where you've actually been in those shoes, but I'm pretty sure it works in a similar way.
I've
to
actually
V-chip.
tried setting that up. I mean, I had when it came to movies, I mean, my parents were incredibly conservative. I have a little brother, and he's watched stuff on Netflix that my mom pays for, and she's not happy seeing him doing that. And so there have been those moments where it's like, hey, Steven, could you manage the parental lock controls on this or something? It's like,
no.
Well, I look into it and it's not there, and it's like, no, sorry, you have to do it old school and just take away the remote or something. I mean,
it's funny. You're talking about Netflix. You were mentioning how this is red letter entertainment. The only way you could find a way to watch it was by renting the actual physical disc on Netflix.
And I'm pretty sure it was up for streaming at some point, but
perhaps,
right now it's not.
But why is it not? It's so bizarre, especially when you take into consideration that Netflix has helped lessen the importance of the ratings board. There's a ton of stuff on there, not just their original content being movies and shows, but also the things that they have that are unrated. The fact that they have, like, kind of their own ratings, really. And you would think that something like this, especially since they made it, or helped make it anyway, would be a perennial, you can only see that on Netflix thing. Or better yet, this is an IFC movie before they became the commercial trash they are currently, where you watch a movie, 20 minutes later there's a commercial, it comes back. Sure, there's no censorship, but there's ad dollars in between. It's like watching something on Hulu. It's horrible. Like, why isn't this on either? Like, why, if this was still broadcast on IFC, people would probably love it, despite it has aged, but not horribly. It's aged in the same way that they're talking about gay filmmakers and queer cinema and these lesbian sex scenes and gay sex scenes and how mass audiences aren't ready for it. You have to remember that this film was made right around the same time Brokeback Mountain was released.
Yeah, no, like absolutely. But even though Brokeback Mountain was, we joke about it as the straight version of that, but
I'm just saying
that is very true. But yeah, we are
cinema and film goers and just our country has changed a lot.
I know, and that's my impression watching this is a lot has changed. I did see Boys Don't Cry over in December, I think. I talked about it for a bit. I'm pretty sure what I saw was the truncated version of that. Since I saw that on a VHS tape, I told you that. But, and yeah, it's like, the power of that movie still did reach out to me, even though it was cut. But yeah,
well,
it would have been nicer if I'm not going to defend it being cut at all. But I do think, what I'm trying to get at is that watching this is like, it's kind of interesting as a historical document, but I just, I do feel like we have come a long way, at least, not just in regards to films, but with television, and like going back to that John Waters point, it's like there's a lot of things that are even with Netflix, it's like as far as distribution, there's movies that just go out unrated on VOD that do fine, or they get like, even if they get a limited theatrical release, there are people that embrace the NC-17 rating. Like I think.
You gotta remember,
they constantly refer to it as like censorship here, when really I think the issue is that people are just scared of an NC-17 rating when they shouldn't be, because if you get an NC-17 rating, it's not like you're not allowed to show your movie. It's just
it is
then
it's just that then the studio won't put it out. NC-17 does not get a wide release. Period. Certain theater chains, including AMC
Shame
and Regal.
Did. Blue Valentine.
I'm talking about the theater chains though. Like AMC and Regal will not show NC-17 films.
Yeah,
like
Shame
a United
did.
Artist will, an ArcLight will.
Yeah, no, I've seen NC-17 movies at a Regal.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I saw Shame. I saw Killer Joe. I saw.
Well, I know AMC doesn't.
Yeah,
and I'm guessing Carmike won't. Most of the major players, probably Cinemark, like it has to be smaller.
If it's owned by Wanda,
chains.
then it definitely won't. I'm sure.
Sure. But even still, the NC-17, if a film gets one, which doesn't happen anymore, it would rather be unrated than get that. It's not going to get any money. There's this like horrible quote from Jack Valena that they play a couple times in the movie where he's like, ratings have nothing to do with box office numbers.
Which
it's
is
like,
bullshit.
it's totally
Deadpool
bullshit.
would not have made as much money if it was PG-13, which is weirdly the reverse of that, but
yeah,
it's true. Like a rating is part of the appeal.
Well, NC-17 though, you can't bring a kid, even if you are the parent. Like there's that restriction for some silly reason, which I still understand, because they talk about in the film as well. Most NC-17 ratings aren't for violence. It's not like RoboCop shit where someone's head is like disintegrating and getting shot through the eyeballs and it coming out the back of your head. It's not anything like that.
It's for sex.
It's always sex. It's always
that's the American
unsimulated
mentality.
sex.
Is like there is something. I don't know why this is like that, but there's just something about violence that just seems more entertaining than sex.
Gun violence. Like language, drug usage.
Something fun when you're a kid that you like to play pretend violence. You like to pretend you have guns
Call
and
of
shoot each other.
Duty being one of the biggest blockbuster like media things around the world, and not just that. We've been talking about Counter-Strike a lot on the show recently. Just video games in general. The big shows on TV are like The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. In America, we're okay with embracing this machismo action. Look at the cars exploding. Everyone have a good time. Fuck yeah, part of society. But someone's nipple slipped and they got in a picture. That's horrendous.
No,
someone call the presses.
That is ridiculous. And
I
want to say we're getting past that because we're seeing shit on Game of Thrones that does get past that. But
that's HBO.
I don't know. I think a reason why is that it just because sex scenes, if they're done very very well, especially in something that does breach NC-17 territory. That's because it is so damn intimate, and it's not like that Hollywood shot of like, let's just focus on like shoulder up and just show the face that you can't really tell what they're doing, what they get into. But if you have like a wide shot where it looks like the real thing, then yeah, that can really I guess make you feel like a voyeur. And I guess I could see why the initial reaction would be, hey, make it NC-17, but It's not like it's justified right away. I mean, something
You've
like Killer
seen-
Joe, I think it totally earns it.
because of the violence, but you've
Yeah,
seen A Clockwork Orange, you've seen
Yeah.
Evil Dead, you've seen
Those were X at the time,
Showgirls
too.
and RoboCop. Only Evil Dead, in my opinion, would earn the NC-17. The other three, why? Like Showgirls,
the first time
the
I saw
sex in
Clockwork
there.
Orange, yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I found that movie more shocking the first time. Now I am a little desensitized to it when I watch it, unfortunately. But I mean, yeah, it really fucked with me the first time that I saw it.
Well, I think that's because you were sheltered, but
Oh yeah, no, but
NC,
still, if that was someone's first example, like, especially like at the age that I was at, like, I don't know, if there's kids watching that when they're 8 years old, then that'd be fucked up. But
I was around that age the first time I saw it.
really, wow, well, okay, then
Yeah.
I was probably really sheltered.
No, yeah, I'm
mean,
not
no,
saying
it's
like
like-
my life is comparable to most people. Like my parents never said, "Oh, this is rated R, you can't see it." It was nothing like that.
Well, I guess
But,
it is interesting
it-
that we come from both perspectives, because I do think, like, I get the parental side. Like, I get,
I
wanting
understand
to
it.
have a rating system, like, have that covered for your kid. I do think the way that the MPA is organized, at least within this movie, it's, it's messed up. If they're not following the rules of having kids between the bracket that they're supposed to have,
It's
then
not
that's,
even just
that's
that.
a crooked organization.
It's
but
the
that
fact
is-
that they're supposedly doing it for the filmmakers. It's parents thinking of
That's
other
bullshit.
children
We know that's
for the
bullshit.
filmmakers. Of course it's bullshit, but that's how they market themselves in the film, and they probably still market themselves that way. Like, they are a lobby group. Jack
Mm-hmm.
Valenti worked for Lyndon B. Johnson in Washington. He's like the most successful lobbyist of all time. They have that little allegory. Oh, it's not on the film. Did you watch the deleted scenes?
No, I did not.
No? They talk
I
about
probably
how...
should have after this, but no, I
Yeah,
didn't.
in DC, the MPAA has a full building with tens or like 30s, like a lot of lobbyists at one time, and they say, like, at the time of this film, Apple has a singular person in a rented office space. I'm sure that's not the case anymore, especially with the iPhone hacking that's going on now. A lot's changed in the last 10 years, not just in terms of the rating board with people stepping down and people dying and all these things, but also just with what streaming is now. We're talking about Netflix, but also Amazon and HBO and all the other players.
It's like there's just more ways to distribute a movie than the theater now.
But
And, I
even
mean,
still, like a film studio doesn't want an NC-17. They'd rather go no rating than NC-17, or better get unrated. The unrated cut
here's
of this R-rated
something
comedy.
I don't understand about how ratings work, because documentaries like the Gunnar Palace example was brought
Yeah,
up here,
which
and
is
they make a
super
great
stupid.
point of like, yeah, you can't rate reality, but like most of the documentaries I saw, like I remember when I was in high school specifically, and I would go out to see documentaries, there would be no rating on there. Like you look at the show times, it would just say not rated. And so I don't know, how does that work? Like, does it get an approval for that, or is it like, because even though it was a small indie theater, it was still a Regal theater, and I don't know how that works, because there's a lot of documentaries out there that just don't have any bad content in there, but they go out with no ratings. So
I'm guessing they'd rather not submit to the MPAA and get slapped with NC-17 or R and allow parents to make up their own decision.
But it's like there could be even stuff like, does Exit Through the Gift Shop even have a rating? Like, I don't know.
It's
It
probably
might be one
R
of
for
those.
language. I don't know, but it might be unrated.
I'm gonna look
I'm
this
not
up
sure.
real quick, but go right ahead.
But yeah, the news just we're talking about documentaries, but the news isn't regulated. There isn't any parental guidance sticker slapped onto CNN that says not suitable for 13-year-olds. Like, you can televise footage of people getting shot and replay like broadcasters getting killed and all this stuff, and war footage. Like, CNN exists because people were like crazy about the Gulf War. They want to see as much of Desert Storm as possible, so they televise it 24 hours. Like, that's okay. And yet, yeah, they're talking about Gunnar Palace having these soldiers, saying fuck and diarrhea and all this, bad language, while like telling people get the fuck on the ground. And you can't put a rating on that. You can't censor that.
No, absolutely not.
A rating system isn't necessarily censorship, but when you put it, if you lock it behind a certain rating, you're basically telling some people don't do this. Like, I'm sure I'm not picking on the Church of Latter-day Saints, but I'm sure there are Mormons out there that go, it's rated R, I'm not going to watch it. I don't believe in that,
Well, First off, just to end this, and yeah, I totally fucked up my point because Exit Through the Gift Shop is rated R. I know there's documentaries out there that don't have a rating that I've seen. Yeah.
For instance, this film is
wish
not
I had a
rated.
good example.
Is not
Well,
rated.
something better than that to fall back on. But I mean, yeah, I think a rating system makes sense when you're talking about entertainment. I would not really classify documentaries as entertainment. That's why it's just
well, it
not,
depends on the
like,
mode.
Yeah,
depends
but
on the mode of the
it's not
documentary.
something that you can really grade in the same. I mean, because when you make a documentary, you work with what you were given. Like when you're making a film, that like a fictional narrative, you have a script, you know what content you're going after. There's things that you put in deliberately there because you want people to see them.
Well, we were talking about this when you brought up Tickled the other day.
Mm-hmm.
A documentary can be just as fictionalized as a fictional piece of cinema.
But you don't get to decide what your rating is going to be when you're making a documentary. You make a movie about competitive endurance tickling, and you think, oh, it's going to be a PG-13, and you find there's this whole other darker side of it, and then you realize as you're making it, oh, it's going to be an R. Like, you don't get to decide that while you're exploring your subject.
Writers don't necessarily come up with the concept and go, this is going to be PG-13, let me write the movie either. It's more of, that's the producer's job. Am I going to produce this with this in mind? Is the studio going to get that much money back from an R-rated superhero movie, for instance?
Well, usually when you're making a fictional narrative, like, there is an idea of what your rating is going to be, of what you're going for.
Sure, because that's when it's like the producer's job. Or you assume your target audience is going to be this, and so you're going to make the movie fit that target audience. If you're making, a coming of age movie for 13-year-olds, you want the PG or PG-13 rating. If it's a coming of age movie for adults, you want the R rating. Like, it's kind of like what you said. It kind of lets you know for instance, yeah, this is an adult story. If you're not an adult, you're probably not going to be able to relate to these characters. Like, that's a fair assumption.
What's interesting too is, like, there are also R-rated movies that are for teenagers, but like if they weren't R-rated, then they just wouldn't be as good. And Superbad, that's a movie that was like for me. Like you love that movie too, right?
Well, it was made for us. We were 17 when it came out.
Well, I was 16 when it came out.
Even still,
so I mean, I had to sneak in,
Yeah,
but that is like one of those movies where I was like, fuck yeah, I was glad I snuck into it. Like all 5 times that I did. Like
I snuck in Freddy Got Fingered. I was proud to do that. I bought a ticket
there is something
for Pokemon
about, like,
the movie 2000,
really,
and I saw. Yeah, Freddy Got Fingered.
It's like I can't bash on the rating system too much because it's like, there is something good about those limitations when you fight against them and you succeed. Then there's just something that really makes it rewarding.
What's interesting here is it's not just the MPAA. Like, we kind of skated by the other entertainment. The big comparable system is the ESRB, the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, which is the equivalency for video games. And they have the same exact system. It's like children. Everybody, E10 plus, which is like the PG-13. There's T for teen, which is like, if you're like 14 years old, this is perfect for you. And then there's M, which is the R rating. But then there's also AO, which is adults only. And there hasn't been an AO game in like 15 years, because for the same exact reason. The major retailers will not shelve games of that rating. In the same way, like, John Waters talking about, Blockbuster Video would not have NC-17 film, and I think that's still fair.
It could be more common though when games are like all on the cloud.
Though, no, I don't know.
I'm just saying it could be more common that you see games like that are easy to access.
No, that's what I'm saying though. I don't think that's going to be the case though. Like, say I have a feeling that adults only is going to come back because of virtual reality. It's people are going to want. I mean, VR porn's already been a success. You can tell people
How is
want
the
it.
rating going to go for that? By the way,
that's what I'm saying. Well, you don't rate porn in the first place.
No, but I mean for VR experiences, how do you rate those?
Well, they're working on it. Like they have like a nausea meter / like how, not personal, but how I don't know. They have like a nausea meter they're working on, and also how big the experience is in terms of like tricking you into thinking you're there. But I do think that AO is going to come back because people are going to want more sexified things in virtual reality. And maybe it's only in Japan. For instance, like they have this game, like, there's a fighting game called Dead or Alive, and they had a spin-off called Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. They just released the 3rd version of that game. It's only available in Japan or Asian territories because they know retailers won't sell it in America. It's not rated AO or anything.
It's just probably really weird and out there. And
it's a good volleyball game. It's just it's girls in bikinis with really obnoxious boob physics jumping around. Like they know that won't sell here. There's plenty of games like that aren't released in America for similar reasons. But this film kind of touches on that, even though it's talking about movies specifically. Like, it has a small window. It's a filmmaker concerned about his movies. And we haven't talked about it yet, but Kirby Dick, since this film... Well, first off, he was nominated for a documentary, Best Documentary in 2005 for Twist of Faith. But he has since, after made Outrage, The Invisible War, and The Hunting Ground. And The Hunting Ground was huge a couple years ago. That's about rape on college campuses, and no one's talking about it. The Invisible War is about sexual assault in the U.S. military. Outrage is about closeted gay and bisexual politicians who promote anti-gay legislation. So you can tell just based on his filmography that Kirby Dick is interested in queer lifestyles and things that are going to relate to things that he relates with. And so that's why a lot of this film is about sex scenes and representation. You have that great piece. I can't remember her name right now, but the director of But I'm a Cheerleader, which I've seen, is a really bizarre movie. Is talking about how
bits of American Pie and American Beauty right next to it. It's
she's saying like we have a masturbation scene on top of clothes, and it's NC-17, and then Jason Bigg fucks a pie.
Yeah, there's no
among
reason
other things
for that to be an NC-17.
Jerks off with super glue. Comes in his pants while doing a strip tease. Like, you could list off all the stuff that happens in American Pie. You're like, how the fuck did this get an R rating? How did I see this?
You know exactly why it is, because that's about...
it's because it's one of the major studios, and it's heteronormative filmmaking.
Yeah, no, and it's also... I forget the name of that movie, too. But I'm a Cheerleader.
It focuses on Natasha Lyonne's character, and she's a cheerleader, and she gets sent away to this camp because she's gay.
Yeah,
it's
one of
falling
those,
in love with one of her cheerleaders.
Make the gay go away camps or things like
that.
Because... we
like Jesus
we
Camp
barely
is
got
a documentary
into it, but
about it.
This is like a big problem with the group is that there is, I don't know how it is now, but there should be more diversity in the same way that the Academy does. And honestly, there should be more than one fucking group just watching movies.
There just shouldn't be a group anymore. We need to really fix... If Steven Spielberg didn't have the clout he did, we probably wouldn't even have a PG-13 rating. He was like, no. Temple of Doom... Everyone has to see this. This can't be a R. And they're like, well, it's not a PG. He's like, well, we'll make something in between. There should be like 2 more ratings. There should be... Because I watch PG movies sometimes. I'm like, how is this okay for everyone? Pixar movies in particular. Like, there's enough jokes in every Pixar movie. From the top of my head, like Inside Out, you made a big stink about The Good Dinosaur with the drug sequence, where it's
But I was cool with that, honestly. There's so many fucking
cool
Disney movies from the 1940s that have like... There's a bunch of stuff in kids' content that is always pushing censorship, and I'm sure it's something that, kids won't think twice about it, that, they won't be thinking, oh, it's a drug sequence. They'll just be laughing at all the weird, funny shit in there. But, Pixar especially, like, they've definitely pushed the boundaries of the ratings. Like, Toy Story 3, which was rated G, probably has the most terrifying sequence that I've seen in a movie in the past 10 years, and that's a G-rated kids film.
Well,
granted, there's so many other factors happening in the story in there, but it's like that.
Something being scary doesn't, look at
far
Poltergeist.
more intense and dramatically, like it just fucking heart pounding.
You started the show talking about Jaws getting a PG. Doesn't Poltergeist have a PG-13?
No, Poltergeist is PG. Like, the PG-13
that should be
rating,
fucking rated R. Like, Poltergeist is terrifying.
It was 1984 after Gremlins and Temple of Doom came out that they said, hey, we have to rethink this. And then it was the first PG-13 movie, that was 1985.
That's not,
I think it was Red
They
Dawn.
didn't say, we have to rethink this. I'm pretty sure it was...
No, but it was
I'm going to become independent if you don't rate my movie.
It was in response
better.
to those 2 movies, because that's the one that just really set people off. And Poltergeist
should be R.
Oh man, like just that moment where he just claws out his own face. Yeah,
you see a guy's skin fall off his face. You see a tree try to fuck someone up. You see a clown terrify this kid to death. And
Spielberg and Disney, those are the 2 responsible for scaring the shit out of me as a kid.
it's confusing. I love the Matt Stone sequence in this film. It's probably my favorite one, where he's talking about Orgasmo. Which, have you seen it?
No, I have not.
You should hunt it down.
It's
real
on
fun.
the list of shame.
It's a fun movie, about Mormons, nonetheless. But yeah, he's talking about how when he made Orgasmo, which is an independent feature, how they didn't give him any notes. They said, it's NC-17, fix it. And then they make South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, and they say the exact same thing, except, oh, here's exactly everything that's wrong with it. Take this shit out, take this motherfucker out, change this around, this is too dirty. And
What's
then
the
it'll be an
difference
R.
between independents and, big studio films?
Because you have to remember, the MPAA is a lobbyist group, and it is made with the major seven in mind. It is to help their film succeed, and not everyone else. Like, it's still those guys. It's Disney, Universal, Sony, Warner's, probably Lionsgate now.
Well, no,
Paramount.
I know for Summit, for when Sinister, that was a movie that was shot with a PG-13 in mind, and they got an R rating. there's no cussing or anything in that movie. For the first movie,
it's real fucking
like
scary,
the
though.
second one, they did not hold back on the gore for the Super 8 films, but the first one, there really isn't that much about it that's violent, like in terms of rating an R. So when they were asked if they could overturn it, they said, no, you can't. It's too scary. That's why it's rated R. Which is actually a great compliment for Sinister, but that is a small Jason Blum production. It was released by Summit, so I guess it's not one of the big studios. So yeah, I still kind of have to call bullshit on that.
We're still,
at least in practice, but
we're chronicling something from 10 years ago and trying to compare it to today's films.
Yeah, that's the thing. That
I think the most interesting thing about this film, and for some reason it's not in the actual cut, it's in the deleted scenes, it's also in the Q&A, that you should check it out before you return this to Netflix.
I already did.
You fucked up. It takes place during South by Southwest. The Q&A was at the Alamo Draft House, and someone asked this question. They say, so I heard a rumor that the MPAA made a illegal copy of this, and it's true. The MPAA, aka the group that is responsible for the DMCA, aka the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which shuts down piracy, doesn't allow you.
The MPAA operates that?
They don't operate it, but they lobbied.
The wrong word.
Yeah, they were the main group. That? They were the main group that lobbied for its.
Jack Valenti pushed that?
Yes, the guy who replaced Jack Valenti, Chris Dodd, he helped SOPA become a thing. The MPAA is how, when you get those real stupid ads where it's like, piracy is not a harmless crime. And you get that cutaway where it's like, don't download movies. All that shit.
You wouldn't steal a car.
Exactly. Yeah. That is because of the MPAA for some reason. It's like the studios put it into their hands and they took and ran with it. And so this group that is 100% against piracy made an illegal copy of this film. And so in the deleted scenes, you see Kirby Dick call them, and he's like, so just to make sure, who watched this? Was it just the Raiders? Yeah, okay, cool. He calls back a couple of days later, and he's like, so there weren't any other copies? No? Okay, great. That's what I want to know. And then they call him back about a week later to the lawyer, and he says, yeah, so we made one copy. And he's like, what? And it has a cutaway to the copy, the term. It's like, you cannot make an unauthorized copy of a copyrighted material without the author's approval. It's like, well, Kirby Dick is the author. They broke that, and they try to skate by. They're like, oh, it's okay because it was for internal use only, or some shit. And he's like, I can't believe this happened. It's probably one of the most bizarre things about this film. There's so much wrong about it. But before we close,
if they went into that too, because the piracy,
it should have been in the movie.
They really skate over that in this. I'm just like, wait, no,
it's deleted scenes.
Ah, man. Well,
yeah,
now I'm bummed because I really would have wanted more on that. It just happened so quick, and I was like, wait, that was where the movie just kind of got confusing. It's like, well, what are you trying to go after? Are you just trying to shit on the group's members and on Jack Valenti, who is now gone? Especially at the time that this came out,
no, he didn't die when this came out.
No. I mean, from the board.
Yeah, he stepped down. He died about a year
this
after.
Ends on such a weird note. It's just like, okay, you're just giving me names as I see cars driving by, and it's like, well, I don't feel much of an impact here.
Like I said at the beginning, this film is less. It's two films. It's about how the MPAA works and why they rate things the way they do, and then who are these mysterious people that rate our movies. Why are they secret people? It's not a secret board. Everyone knows it exists. Every
Yeah.
person that's ever seen a movie knows what the MPAA is, or at least they know what the rating system is.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they get this, they get to be incognito. They get to decide what movie gets what rating, and yet we don't know who they are.
Yeah, it makes no sense how
It makes
it's
no
run.
sense. And
Yeah.
so that's what Kirby Dick is doing here. He's doing a investigation into who they are. And so
I know, but it's just like, I mean, the way that it's handled, I guess I just wish it was more aggressive. I'd hate to compare this to another documentary, but, you know, if these are both pieces, this and Tickle are pieces of investigative journalism, then I think Tickle just dug in way deeper, whereas this is just, I mean, the private investigative stuff, at least from a film standpoint, just wasn't that thrilling or interesting to me. It was just, oh, let's sit in a car and, oh, we got names. And, oh, let's sit in a restaurant. They're talking about editing some movie or something. It's like, I wish I got more details than that. You know?
I just think it's fun. But before we close, a film, or documentary rather, isn't important for what it does or what story it tells. It's more important because of its legacy and what kind of impact it's had. You look at something like Super Size Me. If you've been to McDonald's now and you went to one before that film came out, there's major differences. Not just at McDonald's, but every fast food chain. They no longer ask you to supersize it. It looks like they're not rushing you to get out of there. They provide caloric intake. And this film is no different. It's not Thin Blue Line. Someone didn't get out of jail because of it. It's not Making a Murderer or Serial, but yet there is a lasting appeal. Part of that is, oddly enough, the appeals process. So since this film has been released, the MPAA has posted its ratings rules, their policies, the procedures, and the appeals process itself on their website.
It had to have changed, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, because that was a big thing when I was watching this, and they said, oh, you can't list examples from other movies. I was just like, that.
Yeah, they
that
changed
now for Zach and Miri.
Yeah.
I know that changed. Like,
Yeah,
for
you
that
can-
specifically.
You can cite other films now during the
Yeah.
appeals process, and also it's fair film clips from other films. It's under fair use, so they've kind of changed that around. But the appeals process in this film is probably the most confusing one. That they already got this secret board.
Like, the way that's managed at this time, it makes no sense.
You have this board that's secret rating your movie, and then after they're done, you have another secret board who gets to allow you to change your rating or not. And how one-sided it is, and just like a broken court system. And then when you find out that the people on that board, are CEOs of Fox Searchlight and people that are buyers for Regal Cinema and weird shit like that, like literal industry players who are going to let you overturn the verdict or not. So in other words, it's all about them and if they're willing to accept this film under their own agenda.
See, I just wish I got like full-on cameras in face though, instead of just, oh, hey, here's a car driving away and here are names that we got, and it's just like, well,
they couldn't.
There's just but this is like, there's some that feels false. Like, at least when you're watching a documentary and you want to accept it as truth, and as a viewer, it's just okay because I'm aware by design of what's happening. There's a shot of a car driving away, and then there's these graphics just with names, and it's like, well, please prove to me that you got this piece of information. It's probably just me knowing how just putting these things together works on film, and you as well. But man, it's just like it feels like, please prove something more. Like, get me more. Come on.
I buy into this film and its mode.
I would have
more
10 years ago for sure. But
he's clearly involved. He's on camera. He's communicating with some of his subjects. You hear his voice a lot, even during interviews. You can tell that this is something that he's personal about. It's not cinema verite. I'm gonna stand from a distance. There's
him and a lot of people have been affected by this in the film industry.
Yeah, but he for some reason is the one that did the vendetta. He wanted to figure this out. He went on the exploration. And, I said at the beginning of the show, I bought this for $1. I would buy this for $1. I think it's a very important piece of cinema history, not necessarily because it holds up today, but because it paints a picture of not just how the MPAA worked, but how Hollywood worked before we entered a more transgressive society. I mean, look at something like Transparent, which is on Amazon, or Looking, which is on HBO, or Queer as Folk. Like, there's a lot of queer cinema out there where we embrace more change. Gay marriage is legalized now. Like, we're in a somewhat different society, and yet, they say if you don't study history, you're gonna repeat the past. And I think that in terms of just the way the entertainment world works, that this is just you can't downplay this film's significance, even if it was only significant then. Because it informed a lot of my film knowledge at the time, and it was a good little refresher course or a nice revisit of the past. But this is one of those things that, and like when I have a kid, I could show him this film and be like, this is how movies used to be rated. This is how it used to work. This is how hard it used to be to see gay sex on cinema. And you're like, I didn't know that. I thought it was all on TV like that.
Things naturally do have to change over time, and they have to evolve. I mean, starting from the very beginning with the Will Hayes Code, and then to when Virginia Woolf pushed it so far that there had to be a rating system. Like, my biggest fear, I guess, is that we're just not going to have anything to push against anymore, which will really suck. Like, it's probably the worst thing that'll happen for movies, because, I mean, you look back at, like, stuff from really old, back in the 50s, like, it is fun, like, even though they're doing it very subtly, just seeing them kind of push the boundaries of that code. And that's not what this is about. Like, naturally things have changed in the past 10 years. I can't help but view this from the lens of today, because it's a documentary that I'm seeing for the first time. I want to gain, something. I want to get something informative out of this and learn something new. And so when I'm seeing things like John Waters bring up Blockbuster and Walmart, I'm like, okay, dude.
Well, one of those is still
things
there.
have changed now. It's like, please let me step in a time machine and be like, hey, it gets better. Trust me, it gets better.
You could cross out Blockbuster and put in Redbox there. Like, I highly doubt a Redbox has an NC-17 movie.
They carried Shame, I'm pretty sure. When I scrolled through once, or and even if it wasn't them, then Netflix DVDs definitely let you get them. I think it still does let you. So it's still out there and it's accessible. I mean, things are definitely changing, but geez, I'm having more fun talking about this subject, honestly, than I am getting insight out of this movie. And like, at the end of the movie, if I was to give it a rating on Letterboxd, I probably would have been skirting between 2 and 2.5.
That's kind of harsh.
No, but honestly, I'm going to stick with a 3 because, for that very reason of, like, in context, just thinking about this in 2006, it was a very big deal, and we were in a very different place. And the appeals process has definitely changed, and a lot of things are changing for the better. They still may not be perfect now. But
just think about how backwards. Okay,
it
you
really
go to
makes
a movie,
no sense to me that there was no appeals process where you could bring up examples. Like, that is stupid.
That's so crazy.
But thank God that's changed.
Films are like singular in the way how our society condemns them. You have to be a certain age to see this thing. Like, video games are kind of that way too. Like, you have to be 17 or with a parent to buy an M-rated game. It's a lesser thing though. Like, I'm sure most people don't even care. I'm pretty big about that at my job, or I have to be. I don't want to lose my job. But like music, if it has the explicit sign, do you have to show an ID? Books, there's no rating on a book, and a book can inform you more than any movie can. And when you go to a museum, the nude paintings aren't like behind a black curtain that says adults only.
Hey, society is not perfect, What do you want me to tell you?
But I mean, it's like, this is American society. It's a singular society.
You do have to have a parent with you, or you have to have an ID. I have had that experience with that before, buying CDs. But I don't see really problems with ratings. I mean, like, I really do wish I got a bit more of a parent's perspective, because like, even if a movie is just rated R, then
I can understand it
to a parent, or even to a kid where they maybe feel uncomfortable, like that. That's part of their environment. I'm fine with that. But I think even then, like, there is a positive side for it, where it's just, there's some things that when we go into them, we want them to be a certain rating. Like, they do. When we go see a Deadpool movie, we want that to be rated R. Like, there's so much stuff out there that fans kind of demand to get a certain rating. So I mean, there's so many different sides to this. And I mean, I think, a big positive of having this rating system is that even if you don't know, like, exactly what it is that you are seeing, if you want to be in the dark on it, you can at least feel comfortable, like, somewhat safe that, okay, like, if you're going into a comedy and, it's not like you're walking into a horror film where it says, oh, and like some scary moments in the caption or anything like that, So there are some positives.
You get full frontal nudity
in Titanic.
You get full frontal nudity in 16
Yeah, I
Candles.
know. You get full
and that's rated
frontal nudity
PG.
in Airplane 2.
Yeah, you get
it changed at a certain point.
Like
The ratings
there's like
the
film,
80s
films are
pushed
weird,
a
but
lot of the
yeah,
boundaries
I
on
can
that
understand
stuff.
like from a parental standpoint. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned earlier. My parents allowed me to watch these R-rated movies. Like I've been watching HBO for most of my life. I've been playing M-rated games since
See,
I
I had to
was
sneak
like
that stuff
preteen.
around.
That's what I'm saying though. Like when I worked at an AMC, I felt weird about letting kids come into R-rated movies, and when I sell games at work and the parents don't care, I feel weird about that. And I don't know where I'll stand as a parent, but I don't think that I would let the rating confine it. I think I would be more than willing to do the research on my own and figure out exactly why something is rated a certain way. For instance, if the film is rated R because of drug use and language, I'm not going to give a shit. But if it's like excessive violence and sex, then yeah, I'm probably going to be less interested in having my 8-year-old see the movie with me. I'm not going to have to have a Q&A after
Well, I mean, with
that was a
me,
penis.
It's funny because I think with me as a parent, it is going to really depend on what it is, and I'm going to have to be aware. Like, the first movie I saw that in a theater that was R-rated with a parent was Troy. You know, like, and I was also allowed to watch. I was allowed to watch Gladiator.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you know,
fine
my
for a
mom was
kid,
not
yeah.
cool with that because my mom doesn't like
yeah, both of
violence.
those are
but
fun.
you know, my dad saw the historical significance of it, and you know, was like, yeah, you know, it's cool.
it's
You
an
can
important
watch
movie.
this. You can watch a bunch of James Bond films. You know, I know that blood doesn't freak you out. It's like, yeah, you're gonna be fine. So yeah, obviously, it's always going to depend on the kid. But you know, hey, you talked about like letting kids into movies. I always kick them out. Like, you know, my main reason behind that is like,
I didn't say let them in. I'm saying like they're with their parent, they're buying the ticket for the R rating,
Okay.
and in my head I'm like, no, fuck that. No, I didn't let anyone sneak in. I'm a hard ass for things like that. Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
we're also on the titular Dollar Review Show, a spoiler-free critique of new releases or anything we've discovered on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
And we're also on Google Play Music, iTunes, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just about anywhere on the internet with hours of content available to you for free. But for those of you that feel that the show is worth your dollar, you can send us a donation at patreon.com/dollarreviews. Contributions not only earn our undying love, but they also make it possible for us to improve our recording equipment and to give you the highest quality episodes possible. But more importantly, they'd be helping us acquire the content to review. You know, trips to the multiplex are expensive, and the more donations we receive, the more films we can review for your listening pleasure.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or even if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.